Let's kick it off, indeed.
I find the right thing. Hello, welcome to this is special Dark Mushroom Media Cast, in which we will be covering our top 5 games of this year, 2015. Pretty self-explanatory.
Not collectively, but individually.
Not collectively, right? We all have our own
there is
opinions.
potential for up to 15 games.
That's definitely not going to happen.
Shh! Don't you tell me.
I mean, there's probably likely to be 10 because Jose is going to have 5 Sakura games on the list. But aside from that,
that joke is still funny the 10th time.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm never letting that end ever. I can't wait for next year so I can do it again. Because I know there'll be 10 Sakura games next year.
I'm just expecting
because they
Jose's
pump one
list.
out every fucking month, right?
Exactly.
There's gonna be at least 12.
I'm just expecting Jose's list to be nothing but just hentai games.
That's a joke,
damn it.
Palmer. You got it.
All right.
Tentacle porn everywhere.
Demon Master Chris or bust.
Yeah, dude.
All right, so we're going to start off. We're doing top 5 games, like we said, and they're all games that came out this year.
Are they?
But maybe yeah, that's
Really?
Yeah, that's the way this works. But maybe there's some stuff in early access or stuff that didn't quite make the top 5. Maybe they would have made top 10. So we're going to start off with that shit, and I guess I'm going first. So I have 2 games that didn't quite make the cut because they didn't actually come out this year. First one is Dirty Bomb. Dirty Bomb is still in beta, but I've played a lot of it.
Is it really?
Yeah, for a while it looked like it wasn't, but now it's everywhere you go it says beta, so they got that worked out finally. But yes, it's a very fun free-to-play shooter. Supposedly coming out next year. I don't see why it wouldn't. They've been making a lot of progress on it. They're doing events and stuff. It's a fun game. It doesn't really have paywalls. It's just kind of a grind to unlock characters, but they've been pretty good with running events where you can unlock characters for cheaper, or they just if you play during a certain weekend, they'll give you a character. So they've been pretty good about that shit. So Dirty Bomb would be a mention on my list. Second one would be Killing Floor 2, because I fucking love Killing Floor, and it's just not out yet, which is kind of disappointing because I thought it would be out at the end of this year. I think it was initially supposed to launch in September, but it's looking like it's not going to. If I had to put a date on it now, I'd say summer of next year is when it'll officially launch. But Killing Floor, co-op shooter. Lots of Zeds, lots of gore, NVIDIA graphics card intestines features. Oh, it's just delicious. It's just,
Those intestines of graphics are pretty damn good.
yeah. But those are my 2 mentions. So let's move on to Palmer.
All right, my 2 mentions are as follows: Killing Floor as well. I don't know. It's just it's one of those games that even though it's still in early access, it still functions pretty damn well. They haven't added the fucking sniper class.
Sharpshooter, Palmer.
Sharpshooter class.
Sharpshooter, you fucking
Whatever,
idiot.
whatever, dude.
gamer,
Whatever.
casual
Guy's
boy.
gonna flame you again.
Whatever. I hope so. I hope you do, you motherfucker.
He's been waiting for you to fuck up.
I am waiting for it to happen. So yeah, Killing Floor 2 is definitely one of them, and then my next one is Dying Light. Actually, I really enjoyed the shit out of that game. A lot, and I'll put it to you this way: I have a very intense fear of heights, and Dying Light managed to awaken that fear of heights in me very quickly. Within the first 30 minutes of playing the game, I was about ready to piss myself when it asked me to climb up something, and the wind starts blowing in my surround sound headphones, and the screen starts wobbling back and forth. Oh man, Dying Light was great though. Honestly, I think that game deserved a lot more credit than it got this year. So it is on my mention. Unfortunately, didn't quite make the cut of the list. If this was a top 10, it definitely would have, but top 5, not quite there, man. Not quite there. How about you, Jose?
Well, my honorable mentions aren't to specific games, but to Steam supporting, or I guess the Steam community greenlighting a bunch of visual novels that came out a decade ago, classics, which are now on Steam, which everyone can download. And of those, 10 that came out, Higurashi, which came out in an episodic, I guess iteration now, episode 1. The full name is Higurashi no Naku Koroni, and it is about this awesome fucking creepy town tradition where someone dies and it's your job to figure out what's going on, and it's visual novel style. It's complete bonkers, and the fact that it's episodic it makes it that much more like compelling because you don't have to sit through it and like find a stopping point. There's actual stopping points in the version that they came out with. And then my second honorable mention is Clannad, which also came out in the 90s but was released on Steam this year. And it's like the most heart-wrenching romance tale ever like told. And I'll leave it at that. Yep, two anime games which came out 10 years ago, which are my honorable 2015 games. I found a loophole.
What was the second one called?
Clannad.
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 And is it one of those games that like purposefully sets you up for heartbreak, or does it just come naturally through the progression of the story?
It depends on kind of which character you kind of flag and go for, but yeah, it's like it's essential that you either watch the anime or like play this game if you're gonna be a gay boy fanboy anime.
Does the heartbreak involve tentacles in any way, shape, or form?
Unfortunately, no.
Well,
not worth checking out.
just missed the sale on that one.
Okay, so this brings us to our actual list, and at number 5 for me, which is something I joked around with Jose, like, I don't know if I'm going to fit this on the list, like, we need to finish this, is Zombie Army Trilogy.
You almost didn't finish it.
No, I did, after you fucked all that up. Zombie Army Trilogy is actually a 3-part, or 3 short games put together, the last part being Episode 3, which came out this year and launched as the entire package. It's just fun. Them adding in horde mode added a whole lot to the game, because even playing it like lone wolfing it just adds a different dynamic to it than you would co-op. And all 3 campaigns together, they're decent length. You could probably get like 12 or so hours out of them, but they have a lot of replayability, and it's one of those things. It's a lot of fun with friends, or if you just want to lone wolf it, it adds just an immense challenge to it. It's fucking will crush your soul at times, but you can get through it, and it's really satisfying to do. And exploding zombie heads, always fun.
I love that the last 2 levels were near impossible.
Yeah,
it ramped it up to fucking 15 for those last 2 levels. That made 10?
It. Oh my goodness.
That's 11.
Is it the Spinal Tap of video games? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It's not far off. The last level.
It's a documentary of the making of Spinal Tap.
Yes.
The video game version of the documentary of the making of Spinal Tap.
Without question. But yeah, Zombie Army Trilogy, really fun game, really fun playing with friends. I probably would pick it up on a sale, though, because I think as Rebellion sniper games are, they never kind of go down unless they're on a sale, and I think it's normally like $40. But yeah, Zombie Army Trilogy is my number 5.
Awesome. My number 5 is Stasis. I think anybody who might have regularly listened to anything that I had to say on this cast might not be blindsided by the fact that Stasis is the number 5 on this list. I've been praising it pretty much all year since it came out back in August, and I am continuing to do so. I don't think nearly enough people have had a chance to experience that game. If you're a fan of point-and-click action adventures of old, with a bit of a modern spin and a serious horror twist, then Stasis is definitely for you. And I really can't even begin to express how good the game is, especially towards the end. I mean, like it's like absolutely flawless. I don't know. I haven't played a game like that in terms of atmosphere in a really, really long time, and that's why it's number 5 for me. What about you, Jose?
Well, my list is a bit unconventional, and I'm not, starting this off making excuses, but I haven't played a lot of games that came out this year. And I spent a month in the hospital this year as well, so I was kind of limited, and also 3 months.
You're gonna play that card, Jose? Is that what's going on here?
So, 4 months away from gaming or computer essentially. So I had to do a lot of gaming on the go, on the road. So my number 5, only because I've played this game more than any other game in 2015, is a mobile game. It's a clicker game called 10 Billion Wives.
Oh, you know what? I've actually heard of this.
The title alone
I've heard of this.
Mm-hmm.
You're not the
It's,
only person that's been singing its praises, sir. There are quite a few other people out there that will be excited to hear that you've considered that one of your top 5, because it is
this
not the first
prestigious
that I've heard of it. Yeah, exactly.
This prestigious podcast. But yeah, it's by Masukachi Inc. So that right there should tell you there's not a lot of heart. Plus, it's a clicker game. But of all the clicker games I've like tried, this one, even like on tablets or mobile, this one is like the least engaging, like the most passive clicker. It's
really selling it, man.
as I mean, but it works. It's something you hop on for a little bit, and just waste some time, like on a hospital bed. Just fucking tap in your tablet while like cute nurses like draw blood. But
you're just living the dream there.
Exactly. Yeah, like one of my Chinese cartoons. But so yeah, it's cute art style, a not annoying like 20-second sound loop, and it's catchy, and there's an end to it. Unlike every other clicker game, which seems like there's no way you're ever going to get to the end of it. There's a definite end. It took me like a month to get to it, and that's kind of playing it casually. And it's really rewarding because it unlocks art.
Artwork. What kind of artwork? Is it lewd bikini shots of hentai women?
No, it's very PG. It's very G rated, this game.
Okay, so they're wearing one piece one piece bathing suits.
But it's a cute game. If you like clickers, don't want a challenge, try this game. It's free on the Android Google Play Store.
All right, well, there you go.
Your ringing endorsement achieved.
Indeed.
All right, this brings us to number 4, and my number 4 is something that kind of made the list last minute and knocked something else off it, and just kind of surprised me, and that is Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. I actually recorded a GameScope on it, but I'm going to re-record it now that I have proper resolution for this stuff. But it has a couple problems, mainly in its optimization and network issues. Not huge things that are really holding it back. Well, the network is kind of, but its core game is really fucking fun. I haven't even really touched the multiplayer. I'm more of a terrorist hunt kind of guy, just because that harkens back to like the old Vegas days. What the fuck were those called? Just Rainbow Six Vegas. That was all they were called. Anyway, it's just really fun. In playing it just online, lone wolfing it with strangers, it's still really fun. There's a lot of tactics to it. Unlocking operators is pretty easy. It's not really that much of a grind. It's just it's fun. That's all there is to it. It's really fun, tactical co-opness in Terrorist Hunt. And the multiplayer, I'm looking forward to playing with Palmer since he picked it up, and I actually have someone to talk to.
I did pick it up.
I think that will be immensely fun.
Yeah, and I mean, just to contribute to it didn't make my top 5, but I am really enjoying it. The thing that's absolutely blowing me away about Rainbow Six is the sheer amount of destructibility.
Yes.
You are never safe in that fucking game, ever. Like, if there is drywall, it will be blown away and you will die.
And even if you reinforce a wall, certain operators can fucking blow through it. Yeah. So just at any point in time, just all hell can rain down upon you. I really like the gunplay, too. Firing from the hip is very inaccurate, and I think that's the way it should be. Bullet damage, very high. You can die very quickly. It's just a lot of fun. It's a shooter that takes a lot of skill, I think.
It does.
And
well,
know-how.
You know what else is really surprising to me is the community behind it. In the multiplayer matches that I've played, people are very forgiving. If you make a mistake, they're just like, "Hey, you tried your best. Let's just get them this round," And that's something that is very rare these days in multiplayer games.
They actually listen to you, and you'll listen to each other. Like, I was in a game and some guy was just like, "No one move," and everyone just fucking froze for a good 5 seconds before someone was like, can I move again? Are we cool? What's happening? Like, it's just, you don't really see that in like Battlefield or any other.
You sure don't. You sure don't. And that alone is a ringing endorsement for the game. I really hope that the community stays that way.
I think it will, just because of the fact that all the future operators and stuff that would be normally toted this DLC, you'll be able to unlock via in-game credits. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is my number 4.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, like you wouldn't expect a Ubisoft game to make it on the list, but hey, they managed to do it. They've got something going with that. The
is the game full retail, or is it still in?
It's full retail, but right now you can
retail.
get it for 25% off on the Steam sale. And honestly, you know, for $44, it's not a bad pickup, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my number 4 is it's a game that I'm sure everybody's pretty much heard of. It's called Metal Gear Solid 5.
Metal Gear.
I really enjoyed the game. I still have not beaten it yet, but regardless, I have put a fair amount of time into it, and even though I haven't progressed all the way through the story, the reason that it's my game of the year is because of the fact that it is fun. You can just do pretty much whatever the fuck you want in the goddamn game. If you want to have a horse poop on somebody and then they'll slide in the poop and get lost and not know what to do with themselves, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. You want to sick your dog on somebody, you can absolutely do that. You want to plant C4 onto somebody's butt and watch them patrol into the base and then blow them up and not having any idea that it's happening, you can do it in this game. It is fucking fantastic.
Ideally, you do all 3 things together, though, just to really fuck with them.
So the reason that it's it ranks as number 4 for me is, like I said, the sheer fun factor. The missions are, there are a few things that a lot of people found disappointing about the game, but I found to be a welcome change of pace. So they decided, I guess, ultimately to tone down the game and keep it isolated to 2 separate maps. And a lot of people found that pretty boring and pretty repetitive. But my counter to that is, I'd rather just be 2 separate maps that you can play with, but they just up the fun factor to fucking 20, and let you roam around these maps doing whatever the fuck you want. You can wave your dick willy-nilly in the air if you want to. You can't actually do that, but you could if you imagine hard enough.
There's mods for that.
Yeah, maybe one day. But yeah, I really enjoyed the game. I found it to be, even though it was a little light on story. And I can agree with the fact that a lot of people say that it's not a true Metal Gear Solid game. I still think that Kojima stumbled upon a formula that is next to none in open world games this year. Just in terms of maybe Just Cause 3 comes close, but Just Cause 3 has I can't stand the fucking main character, dude. I just can't stand him. And, well, it's just like he's so forced. Yeah, he talks all the time. And he's just, I don't know. It's like they tried to make him a massive walking stereotype in Just Cause, and it bothers me.
I'm pretty sure it was like that with the second game too.
It was, but it wasn't quite to the level that it is in 3. In 3, it's
pretty. In 2, it was more
bad.
parody satire. I guess in 3 it went full retard.
No, it's still parody satire, but there are points where it just seems really, really forced. So, that's the reason that didn't end up making it. Even though you can do the same amount of stupid shit in Just Cause, in Metal Gear Solid, it's got that presentation that is just, I don't know, man. It's got Kojima written all over it, and it's absolutely fantastic. Plus the female sniper. Come on, in a bikini. Can you really argue with that? Honestly.
For lore reasons, obviously.
How about you, Jose? What's your next non-conventional list number?
This one
that came out in the 90s.
Not all my games are unconventional. This one is very conventional. In fact, it was probably one of the most popular games that came out when it did, which was in May or June, and it is Ark Survival Evolved. Game that's still in early access, but it dropped this year. So I put in a lot of hours in this game, and this game multiplayer is perfect. Like, it's got everything you want, despite it being
not according to the Reddits and the forums.
Well, maybe now. I mean, I haven't touched the game. I mean, no, I played with Palmer a bit.
We do need to hop back on that, by the way. That shit was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. But yeah, so it's a survival game, open world. Crafting is one of the big things that you do, like in most survival games, but like especially in this game. They put an emphasis on like how good the game looks and not so much on optimization. You know, it's still early access, but even some early access games kind of want to make your game playable. Not an Ark. Yeah, it's like build a decent rig or go
or get
home.
the fuck out.
And so
my
when
$3,500 PC cannot run that game in max settings, which is just abysmal to me.
Yeah,
but,
for real. So yeah, when the game came out, it was impossible to get into an official server. And then, but when you did, it was almost impossible to get your friends to, hop on the same server. So a lot of it was hopping around, having the game crash, waiting 20 minutes for the game to load, and then, finally getting in. But when you do get in, it was amazing. It's dinosaurs everywhere. It's hard to like survive. There's no story, no real narrative. It's just you wake up on the shore of some world. There's an implant embedded in your arm, and you fuck around. It's a very open world. The game focuses a lot on tribes, so you get right away. You better guild up with someone or with your buddies or whatever, or else you're gonna get stomped. And when I kind of stopped playing, that's when the hackers kind of took over the game, essentially. So, my advice for anyone playing an early access open world game, get in early, because it's going to be ruined by Russian and Chinese hackers, is all I got to say. ArcheAge was the same way.
You can't run your own private servers in that?
You can. You absolutely can.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but it's not as fun if you don't fear like the big dick tribe, overlooking the plains,
The horde of Chinamen,
there is
H1Z1 coming at you.
Tribe too. There is always that big dick tribe.
Absolutely, and they're always in war with the Chinese hackers, and there's a shit ton of official servers, so you can, if you don't like it, hop on another one, and it's a fairly big world, so you can always go wherever and hide, stake out your own little land, but it's super fun, and you can't go wrong with dinos that you can tame and ride. So, yep, that's my number 4 2015 game. Oh, also, special shout out to TeamSpeak 3. I haven't used TeamSpeak since like early 2000s, and you don't sound like a robot. There's no ridiculous lag. It's very user-friendly now. So, yeah.
TeamSpeak tied with Ark as his number 4. You heard it here, folks.
For a game that's not actually out,
folks.
but who cares? It doesn't matter. None of this matters. All right, that brings us to our number 3 spots. My number 3 spot goes to a little indie game by the name of Hand of Fate, which is a deck builder, I guess. Yeah, it's a deck builder game.
And the way like a roguelike?
I'm playing a lot of those.
Yeah, it's a roguelike deck builder, third-person combat, card battle.
Oh.
It's a whole lot of things meshed into
catch-all is really what it is.
Yeah, well, sort of, but it's a stupid amount of fun. Basically, the way it works is it's a deck builder. You get your cards, and depending on cards go from anything to items you can equip, to locations you fight at, to monsters and bosses you fight. And as you progress through the game and like start to beat the littler guys, you unlock cards to get harder bosses and harder enemies and better rewards and shit like that. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's a tremendous amount of fun. And the whole while this is going on, you're dealing with this kind of creepy, mystical dealer guy that's always kind of just. It's weird. It's like he's trying to kill you, but he wants to be your best friend. It's kind of comical. But the way it works is like you just progress through the levels. The cards are out on the table, and all the cards are face down. You go over a card, and whatever, depending on what your deck is, that card flips up in that location, and maybe it's a battle. And you go into the battle depending on what gear you have, like what cards you have in your hand. That's the gear you use, and just depending on what cards are in everything, like that's what you fight. That's where you go. That's how many levels there are. It's just a tremendous amount of fun with a tremendous amount of replayability. They put out 1 piece of DLC and 5 free pieces of content, so they've been pretty good on that. And I think they're actually done with it. They're going to keep patching it and stuff, but they're starting to work on Hand of Fate 2, which is something I'm really excited for because the only real downside to Hand of Fate is graphically, it didn't look very good, and as far as the third-person combat mode went. It kind of played like Arkham or Shadow of Mordor, that type of like parry combo system, but it didn't look very good. It almost looked like Fable 1-ish, Fable 2-ish graphics, but it was still a tremendous amount of fun. And if they improve on the actual graphics department of it, Hand of Fate 2 will be fucking amazing. So, yeah, Hand of Fate's my number 4. Hopefully Hand of Fate 2 comes out this coming year, and it will be amazing. So,
awesome.
That's that. Palmer, what you got for number 3, 4, 3? We're on 3.
Three.
Fuck's wrong?
I don't know. My number 3 is Bloodborne. This game came out in March, so it was towards the beginning of the year. And it was a PS4 exclusive. For people that don't know, Bloodborne's very much along the lines of like Dark Souls or Demon Souls or something like that. It's a very unforgiving game, but it's a lot more fast-paced. It doesn't have the slow, precise combat. You're doing a little more button mashing. You're really trying to get as many blows as possible in the window that you have. But the game is still requires like a level of knowing your enemy. You know, like every game that's released under that series or by that developer, they're all they're unbelievably difficult, and they only get harder as it progresses. But Bloodborne had a lot of character to it, a lot more so than I think any of the other games aside from Demon Souls has had. Like I said, the game's absolutely unforgiving, and it really does only get harder. And I did not actually beat it until about 2 months ago. 2 months ago is when I finally cleared the game, and I did so because the DLC was coming out. And the DLC has also been absolutely fantastic. I think people can go out and pick up like a Game of the Year edition now that comes with all the DLC and everything. The one qualm that I have with the DLC is it is meant to be played if you're still playing through the game. If you're in a new game plus type of situation, you basically have to replay through the entire game before you can do any of the DLC stuff, which is a bit of a disappointment and hit me a little bit hard because now I'm playing through my second playthrough of it and just now hitting the DLC stuff that I can finally access and finally go through and I'm having fun with it, but it is actually very well done. The entirety of the game, it's very much like the Dark Souls, Demon Souls aspect in the sense that the story exists if you want to find it. Otherwise, you're just playing basically an action RPG. That, like I said, is just unabashedly difficult. It's brutal in every aspect. I mean, from minor spoiler here, but there's a point in the game where you'll run into an enemy that is just unforgiving, right? Like it'll kill you in 2 hits, pretty much. And you can beat it. It is entirely possible to beat if you are skilled enough to do so. But the chances are that you are not going to beat it, and that it is going to throw a sack on your face, and you're going to get carried into some new area that you've never seen before, full of nothing but these incredibly difficult monsters, and it is up to you to get the fuck out. The fact that the game throws curveballs at you like this, especially when you just start to get comfortable with it, it seems like every single time the formula manages to hit just when players finally overcome the next big thing. There's something just waiting around the corner ready to kick your ass. And I absolutely love that. I think it's fantastic. I thrive on games that beat you down until you are a fucking husk of your former self. And this was definitely one of them. I can't recommend Bloodborne enough. For those that have a PS4 that have not played Bloodborne, if you're in for a challenge, or if you're ready for a challenge, I would say, pick it up. Pick it up, absolutely. What about you, Jose? Moving the baton along.
Like grab and stumble and drop it.
Yeah, exactly.
So my number 3, another early access game. Technically came out this year. We'll get into that in a second. It's Don't Starve Together early access by Clay Entertainment. So the game, I say it kind of came out this year because with like a week left in 2014, it came out in paid beta, like quotes open beta. And then, but if you owned the game, like the single player Don't Starve, you get it for free at some point in 2015. And I think that was in June.
Yeah,
August.
Summer. It was July, August, somewhere around there.
So it's an awesome 2D roguelike, another survival game. But it's got an awesome art style, like Edward Gorey, with like Tim Burton-y characters. Each have like their own kind of like pros and cons. That's to like help you survive. And very much in roguelike fashion, you learn more about the game, and then you die, then you restart, and you take that knowledge into your next playthrough. But Don't Starve Together is it's multiplayer, but it's not just they didn't just shoehorn in a multiplayer feature to the game. They added a bunch of new mechanics that make it work. So it feels like there's more to it, that they were actually working on it. Despite the community already throwing tons of money at them, and them being whores and corporate, and asking for paid early access DLC, all that good trash.
For something
it's
that
still
you already were going to get. That's the big point.
right, but it's still super fun. I feel like this is a game that anyone could get into because it is challenging. It's got a great style, and the multiplayer options, like hosting the game, it gives you so much freedom to do whatever you want with it. Like, not just workshop mods. It's just you can control resources. You can make the game much harder for if you're veteran friends. You can make it much easier for like new people. There's even different. I guess this stuff is also in, well, not the resource stuff, but like different game modes, like survival, endless, and other modes. And it's pretty like active. Like there's always like 100 rooms at any point, and you can join anyone's game if it's open to the public. And it's my number 3 because I play it all the time with my friends, and it's great. Rope Dart.
Ringing endorsement. At this point, I'm hoping Jose never doesn't list the game that actually came out this year. Like, just go full bore with this idea. That would actually please me greatly. All right, so now we're at the number 2 spot.
Number 2.
It's my number 2, of course it is. My number 2 is Warhammer End Times Vermintide. It's a Warhammer game. Shocking, I know.
15% off. Slap in the face.
Yeah, I told them, Palmer. I told them to do this.
Fuck them.
It is a co-op hack and slash shooter, destroy your soul-ish game, depending on your party. Me and Jose have dumped a lot of time into it. I spent a lot of time playing online, and it's one of those games where if you have a bad team, you're gonna have a bad time.
Unless you whip them into shape.
That never happens. Or if like you're on a higher difficulty and a low-level guy joins in, it's just almost spelling doom from the start. But it is just immensely fun. The combat is very satisfying. The weapons actually, if you got a broadsword and you fucking chop a rat's head off, it feels very heavy and it feels like you're actually doing it. And the gunplay and the ranged weaponry is actually surprisingly fun to play. Like, it's just all around a great game. And the fact that they're still improving on the loot system when they didn't really need to. A lot of people wanted them to.
Absolutely needed to.
It wasn't. No, it was. It's making it easier for players to get loot. I thought it was fine before, but whiny tryhards like Jose demanded easier stuff. But they're actually implementing that, and they're talking about doing more free content and paid content that'll actually be worth it, like new enemy factions and shit like that. It's just an immensely fun game. Great co-op, great by yourself. It's fun, and it's Warhammer, so of course I love it. But Warhammer End Times Vermintide is my number 2 spot.
All right, my number 2 is a little game that not many people may have heard of. It's called Fallout 4.
One of those little indie titles that kind of went under the radar.
Now, this year was a bit of a struggle for me. Fallout 4 actually really does tie at number 1 for me with another game, which will be mentioned later.
I already know what it is. I knew what your top 2 were.
But the reason Fallout 4 ended up getting axed and put into the 2 rank rather than the 1 rank is, one, the sheer amount of time that I played it. Doesn't compare to one other game that I've played this year. But it seemed like a lot of features that were in Fallout 3 and even were definitely in New Vegas. It kind of got stripped from the game. It felt like the karma system was a little bit forced. It was more story driven than ever before, and it wasn't really based on character decisions as much as it was in the past. And there were a number of instances where I really just wanted a little more freedom than I think Bethesda was willing to allow. For instance, there were points where I really just wanted to kill NPCs that I didn't like and do things in the game. I just wanted to be a total and complete despicable mess. That's what my goal is every time I play Fallout. And I felt like I was a little restricted in Fallout 4 compared to some of the other games of the past. For instance, there was a point where I came across the little faction called the Brotherhood of Steel. And the Brotherhood of Steel, they were kind of like the pivotal moment of Fallout 3. You run into them, and then you get into the expansion and the DLC, and they drive the game forward, whereas in this one, they seem like a bunch of, Fourth Reich whiny bitches. And at first I was on board, I was like, all right, kill everything that isn't human. That's fine. We'll just go ahead and start the new wave of fascism, right?
America.
And then I came across another faction that just seemed a lot more evil and despicable, and and I enjoyed that a lot more. But yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic game. I put a lot of time into it. I am probably going to start my second playthrough here in a matter of weeks. But it just, as much as I loved it, it felt like as I got deeper into the game, the more I realized that it wasn't an RPG. It was a fantastic action game, a story-driven action game that I really enjoyed. But I found myself enjoying it not so much because of the fact that it was a Fallout game, in the traditional sense, but just because of the world. Because I really enjoyed the world itself. I really enjoy the characters. I really enjoy seeing what Bethesda does with a new area that actually exists in our lives, and so seeing and exploring a post-apocalyptic Boston was a lot of fun, but ultimately I felt a little gypped by the time I got to the end of the game. Now, will that stop me from doing a second playthrough? No, I've already said I'm gonna probably start that, but I am really waiting for modders to get their hands on this game and make more additions, make some changes. I mean, there's already been a number of modding stuff that the community has done. For instance, changing the dialogue options around and things like that. So, I mean, it's getting there. It's still a ways away, but unfortunately, because of the nitpicking, and it really is nitpicking on my part, but because of those nitpicking issues, I really couldn't put it at number one. It stuck at number two.
I just want to say most of your points are valid too. And I love me some Fallout, but yeah, most of those points were valid. So.
Yeah. What about you, Jose? Number two, buddy.
All right. Oxford defines video games as a game played by electronically manipulating images produced by a computer program on a television screen or other display screen. Right. So, that in mind, this next game, my number two game, I did not play. I, in fact, watched it being played on YouTube. The whole thing.
So you just don't understand the concept of this thing we're doing right here. Is what you're telling me.
This game came out this year by a little company called Konami. It's Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. This game I thoroughly enjoyed watching. Now, we've discussed this on... I wasn't invested in it. I wasn't planning on picking this game up. Because, we've said before, I absolutely... The last game I played was Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation. And I've kept up with, what
Sniper
the game's
Wolf.
about. So, and I know the gist of it, but I'm not invested in it. But it's because it's mechanics heavy. I've read, before I started watching the game, mechanics heavy. It's not really story driven, except by what, you pick up from reading tapes or listening to tapes in game. So I was like,
it's not entirely true. There's cutscenes and stuff. There are points where the story does propel itself forward, but for the most part, it's relies more on what the user does for the amount of fun
Mhm.
that you can have.
Absolutely. And I watched these two guys, like this one guy played, another guy was like backseat, gaming. And they themselves were absolutely invested in this game. And they had more, to reveal about the game and its history and its lore than I would know ever. And I kind of vicariously enjoyed the game through them. And I'm going to say like that, it surprised me because, the whole Let's Play phenomenon, it's fine because, you watch a gameplay every now and then. But I actually watched this one from beginning to end. I think it was over like a month. They played like an hour, like every couple of nights. And it was super fun. In fact, it's so fun that I think I might pick this game up in the future despite knowing everything about it because it was so much, the way they played it was super fun. Like Palmer's absolutely right. You can do whatever the hell you want. It's very open world. You can complete missions however the hell you want. And the person's play style was very close to my own. So it was, I got a real kick out of watching this game played. Having dinner, watching this thing, and it was super fun. So it's my number 2 on this list.
Number 2 game is a game you might
Number
pick up
2.
in 2016. I like the way you
Maybe
both say.
2017.
Maybe $5 price point or bust.
No fucks given with this
Humble
game.
bundle.
Yeah,
Humble
exactly. Konami humble bundle. It'll be right there with all the pachinko games they try to push in there too.
That would actually sell extraordinarily
It
well.
would. It would. That's the sad part.
All right, so this brings us to our top spot, our number 1, numero uno, for 2015, and mine is Fallout 4.
Ah.
Now, Palmer said one of the main issues I had with this game is not just Fallout 4, it's just since Fallout 2, basically. No, even Tactics was good, but basically with the modern iterations of Fallout from, like, let's say 3 on, they kind of have slowly been taking out things, like lessening the dialogue options you had, and just lots of little things like that. And now, even from jumping from Fallout 3 to Fallout 4, it's become apparent to people that didn't play the first iterations of Fallout, even people that just played Fallout 3, can say, like, wait, they're taking stuff out. I wasn't a big fan of the Mass Effect dialogue system. There was it had a lot of issues, but I still had a tremendous amount of fun with it. It still felt like a Fallout game to me. It still had that same atmosphere.
I cannot dispute that at all. It definitely feels like a Fallout game.
Yeah, it's had that atmosphere. The weapons, the gunplay was a little different, but it worked. I enjoyed it. It's a great game. Me and another friend have had a pact where the first main quest you can go to is in Diamond City, and I've dumped over 40 hours into the game, and this other friend has dumped over 80, and we have yet to go to Diamond City, because that is how true hustlers play Fallout, is not actually doing anything in the game, aside from wandering around and exploring and finding robots racing on racetracks, and growing farms, and just all this weird shit, because it's a Fallout game. So, yeah, it has its issues, but it's a tremendous amount of fun. It's a fun fucking game. It's a Fallout game. A lot of people kind of hopped on the bandwagon of, well, it's a great game, but it's not really a great Fallout game. I wouldn't say it's like one of the best Fallout games, but I think it's better than New Vegas. I think it's definitely better than...
Really? You think it's better than New
Vegas? Yeah, I like New Vegas, but New Vegas felt very bland. Like, initially when New Vegas came out, I was really excited because I was like, oh shit, a Fallout game set in Vegas. And then when it actually happened, it was just like, wow, 90% of this game looks exactly the same, and it just doesn't...
I'll give you that, but it definitely felt like it was like Fallout 3.5.
Yeah, it did a lot of improvements, especially with like the weapon crafting and the mods and shit. It definitely had like improved over Fallout, but just
the part that I really missed from the transition between, and I understand it's 2 different developers, it's done by entirely different teams, but the transition between New Vegas and Fallout 4 is the fact that there is so much gray area in Fallout New Vegas versus where it is in Fallout 4. You know exactly what you do is going to affect you in a certain way in Fallout 4, and that's kind of the karma system. That's how the karma system plays out in Fallout 4. Rather than telling you whether or not your action was good or evil, it just... it's up to you ultimately to figure out whether or not it was good or evil, but you side with a faction, and that's the way it plays out. Whereas in New Vegas, You could kill a camp of people because they were attacking you, and you would have no idea whether or not they were tied to a certain faction, and all of a sudden, a faction that you were neutral with, or friendly with even, will hate your fucking guts the next time you walk into their town, and they'll just open fire on you, and you won't have any idea why. And I love that gray area. They captured it so well in New Vegas, and I was genuinely disappointed that at least a portion of that didn't transition, and I really hope that Obsidian gets an opportunity to take the Fallout 4 engine and build another game and see where they can go with it, because I think they were on the right track.
I never had that issue with Vegas. It was pretty much if they're wearing Raider-like armor, they're with Caesar. If they're wearing combat armor, they're Rangers. So I don't know. I never had that particular issue. I was just using it as an example, but Fallout 4 is not a bad game, is really what I was going with. I don't think it's in the top 3 even, but it's definitely somewhere. It's mid-tier Fallout. It's not like the worst Fallout game ever made, including console release.
I can't dispute that. I mean, the pure amount of hours play. I've gone farther in that game than you have.
That's because true Fallout fans don't actually go to Diamond City, Palmer. I don't know who told you.
Well,
but that's the way OGs play.
Heaven forbid I want to further the storyline.
Fuck that, it's Fallout. Fuck story. But anyway, Fallout 4 is my number 1 game of 2015. I will pass it on over to Palmer.
All right. Tim?
Mm-hmm.
I want to actually see if you can predict what my number 1 is.
Of course I know what your number 1 is.
What is my number 1?
On 3,
does it involve
can we on 3 say what we think his game is?
Yeah, do it. All right, I'll count it down. 1, 2, 3. What's my number?
Witcher 3.
Yep, absolutely. Hands down, Witcher 3, baby. CD Projekt
I knew
did
Fallout
it, right?
and Witcher would be your top 2. I just wasn't exactly sure which order they would be in.
So I am well into my second playthrough of Witcher 3, and I have to admit, as of late, I have hopped on there. I still haven't bought any of the DLC for it yet. I'm going to. I'm waiting for GOG to lower that price point. But I have to admit, as of late, I've hopped on Witcher 3 more to play Gwent than I have to actually play the game. But I have to applaud CD Projekt Red, because every little aspect of that game is a genuine adventure. Even when it comes to doing side quests. Some of the side quests are the most compelling parts of the game. Learning about monsters, learning about where they come from, learning about how they interact with the world, and how to bring them down efficiently is one of the greatest aspects of The Witcher. And I don't think any other developer on the face of the earth has come close to capturing something like that. In terms of, like, there are really, like, 3 key moments that come to mind when I think about The Witcher, in terms of monsters and stuff. But they're actually, like, there are some genuinely heart-wrenching moments in that game where you really have to decide whether or not your actions are the right choice. And that's what I like about an RPG. That's what I like about something that is supposed to be considered an RPG, because of the fact that, like, I feel like you should have tough choices, that you shouldn't feel like the things that you shouldn't be sure, because real life is, you're never 100% sure of your actions, you know? And I love it when video games are able to really make you question the little aspects of what you're doing, and whether or not you made the right choice, and whether or not you're going through things the right way, whether or not you should kill this thing or let it live, or have sympathy. You know, it's one of those situations where you really got to just decide what is the right course of action. And I love The Witcher 3 for it. And like I said, God, dude, I don't know. I've got to be at like over 200 hours in The Witcher at this point. And there's no looking back. I really do, like, I'm gonna finish this playthrough, and I am planning on doing another one, because there are still events that I want to see. I genuinely want to see how it turns out if I make one small decision a different way. And the branching paths, the fact that basically you finish, you're talking about exploration in Fallout, right? So you have one massive map in Fallout. In Witcher, you finish exploring one massive map that is literally as big as it is in Fallout, and then all of a sudden the game's like, hey, guess what? There's an entirely different area you have to explore. what? Like, I don't know. CD Projekt Red really captured my imagination with this game, and I really loved Witcher 2. I thought it was great. I played I spent most of my time with Witcher 2 on Xbox 360 because at that point in time I didn't have a PC that could run it.
When that came out, you needed a beefy PC to run it.
Yeah. Well, I was also using a Mac at the time, so I didn't have a PC that could even come close to running it. Even in the terms of if I boot camp my fucking Mac, there was absolutely no way I was running this game. And I don't know, like it felt so good playing Witcher 3. I enjoyed it. I felt like it was a return to the universe. They took some of the unnecessary complications out of Witcher 2 and honed them, fine-tuned them in Witcher 3, made them more streamlined, made them easier to use, but not in a way that felt like it was crippling the player. For instance, with the dialogue options in Fallout 4, it doesn't feel like with the dialogue options in Fallout 4, I understand why they want to simplify it, because people just don't want to read these days, but at the same time, it felt you were taking something away from the player. You weren't actually sure whether or not what you were going to say was what was actually going to happen. Whereas in Witcher 3, it forces you. It really does. It forces the player to absolutely 100% pay attention to everything that's going on in the game. Sure, you can do things. You can go up against a monster whenever the fuck you fucking feel like it. But whether or not you're prepared for it and can actually deal with it is a whole nother thing entirely. And The Witcher will 150 fucking percent punish you if you do not approach something with the right upgrades, with the right weapon enhancements, without the right spells. The game will not hesitate to say, you know what, fuck you, you didn't prepare for this whatsoever, get fucked, kid, and then tell you to go on your merry way. And I absolutely loved it. It felt like it combined a little bit of the difficulty of something like Dark Souls or Demon Souls or Bloodborne, but threw it in with a story that was genuinely compelling and managed to pull on pretty much every emotional string I could have. So that's why it's my number one, and that's why you should play Witcher 3.
I really have to catch up on that series. I still need to play The Witcher 2, but coming from The Witcher 1, it was just... It seems like the series made a real turnaround, and I'm looking forward to playing Witcher 2 and Witcher 3.
Honestly, yeah, like, I would say the most accessible way is to jump in with Witcher 3. If you play The Witcher 3 and you really like The Witcher 3, then yeah, go and play The Witcher 2. But honestly, you're not losing that much story-wise. It does a very good job of catching you up, of explaining who characters are if you don't know who they are. But it does have, at the same time, those extra perks. If you have played through The Witcher 2 first, then you're like, oh yeah, I know who you are. Like, it's got that fan service there, but at the same time, it manages to cater to an audience that it knows may not have played the previous games. So,
well, for me, it's just I have a PC that can run, because like you mentioned earlier, very beefy to run when it came out, and I have a PC that can run that maxed out now, and I demand to play that. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, play The Witcher 2. Don't by any means ignore it, but if you want to just jump into the Witcher universe, don't hesitate to just pick up The Witcher 3 and just start with that. And let that kind of be your compass. Use that to gauge whether or not you like like it enough to check out the rest of the series. I will say Witcher 1 is a big departure from the modern Witcher games. You really need to have some patience with Witcher 1, so I wouldn't suggest starting there. In fact, if you do if you do start there, you'll probably be pretty disappointed.
So why it's taking me so long to play the second.
So, just pick it up and enjoy it. It's hands down one of the best games of the year, if not the best. In my opinion, it is the best. But, I can understand everybody else has different opinions and everything. So,
it's just like your opinion, man.
That's just like your opinion, man. Exactly. How about you, Jose? What's your number one?
Please don't be a game that came out this year. Early
this
access
game
please.
Didn't exactly tickle my pickle like Witcher 3 did to Palmer. But like almost every game on my list, it's not exactly story driven. It's very much about the mechanics. something you can pick up that at night, play it, and then pick it up some other time. Without the need of like, my God, what happens next? So my number one game is Warhammer End Times
Oh, shit.
Vermintide. So not a whole lot to say about this game. I'm sure I've sung its praises already in previous podcasts, and also vented the shit that I hate about it. But
The other players.
they're essentially the human element. But it's a lot like Left 4 Dead with Warhammer skins. It apparently they did their homework. Every fucking Warhammer nerd can't stop explaining why this particular weapon has that like hilt, or why this rat is painted white on his like left shoulder. So like it's apparently pretty
I can
close
personally
to
attest to that.
yeah, well, especially when we play with this asshole. But it does everything Left 4 Dead 2 did great. It's the developers are always they're apparently going to release more stuff to the game, like new the characters, new enemies. They're refining everything with the weapons and forging them. They've revamped like the loot system, which made it a little more forgiving. So now no one has any excuse for not having good gear, in my opinion. Which is now my screaming at them is more justified. And it's a great game. I could play it for hours. I could play the same level for hours because
We've done that in the past.
it's that much. It's that good of a game. They did it right. They made Left 4 Dead 2 a little more engaging, and yeah, that's all I got to say on it. Another ringing endorsement. Sure.
I'm surprised it's your number one. I guess I should have calculated that as the list went
Well,
further on. But
think about
I know,
all
yeah,
the
I know, yeah, I get it. But
I've played.
I just didn't know you enjoyed it so immensely.
Oh,
I just thought you liked yelling at people because they fucked up your loot die.
15% slap in the face. Get fucked, devs.
Mad bro, Palmer mad bro. God forbid, someone puts a fucking solid release that's sung high praises, fucking more than 15% off.
And
fucking 6
even
weeks after launch.
this free DLC that they released was just new weapons, they look real nice. Like all the
They
new
look
ones I've seen.
real nice, dude. I'm glad
Like-
you enjoy your hats. You're 15% off fucking hats.
Because they've honestly like the weapons before were pretty drab, even the orange tier weapons. But these are gold plated. These have like nice jewel encrusted. The hilts are nice. The
They're on
sheen
fire.
on the blade is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've added like they gave a lot of information on like how to get like how the loot system works, like during one of the live streams that they did. And that like there's a type of like percentage chance to get something which is called luck, and like it raises or lowers throughout the game in an unknown way. And then there's trinkets that were thought to be pretty useless, but then they revealed that it actually helps with your dice roll and how you play the game. And it's just subtle things like that. They don't need to go all out. They don't need to offer hundreds of like free DLCs because they're trying to make up for something. It's just strong mechanics. It works, and it's got a pretty active user base. You never really have to wait to play a game.
95% off or bust.
Humble
This
Bundle.
fucking guy. Humble Bundle, Warhammer Humble. Actually, that's been a thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't they actually have one of those already?
They had like a mobile Warhammer Humble.
Yeah. I think it was like a Games Workshop.
Oh, those
It
games.
wasn't even like a fucking.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. Our top 5 games of 2015 and mentions and whatnot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, out of all the lists that were just presented to you, you should listen to mine the most.
Clearly,
I agree.
no, you should
I
listen to
agree,
Jose's the most. I'd vote Jose because he only had one game that actually came out this
Redcon.
fucking year.
Redcon.
Yeah, it was something like that.
All 5 are Warhammer: End Times - Vermintide.
The seats. Patch 1.1.
Well, that does it for our New Year's edition of Dark Mushroom Media. We hope that you've enjoyed the lists that we've presented to you. We'll be back next year with some fresh new content and news and hopefully a bunch of other new things in the future. In the meantime, everybody have a wonderful New Year, and we'll see you all next year. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye.
Adios, folks.